Hello all, and I hope you're well in these very troubled times. Today I'd like to welcome Medhy from DBS over in Hong Kong to our Fintech Finance virtual arena, where we're going to be discovering everything we can about Hong Kong Fintech. So without further ado, Medhy, you are in charge of, you're the head of Fintech and Startup Exchange at DBS. And also what seems to be a host and producer of What the Fintech. So it's nice to see someone else who hosts media when it comes to the fintech space. But obviously, can I hear a bit more about your role at DBS in your own words?
Sure. Thank you very much for the invitation and joining that podcast is really interesting for me. I'm the head of Fintech for DBS in Hong Kong. So my job is to overview all the fintech initiative for the bank here, but also to work with startups. So my title is also Startup Exchange. So it's a kind of accelerator that we have here. What we do is we try to source problem statement from different business units. It can be on the corporate side, private banking, institutional side, but also on the support services like risk, finance, or HR, and try to see if we can support them with new technologies, emerging technologies, and also new framework delivered by startups. And we try to change their life every day. We try to measure if we can change something about the costs, time savings, or also generate new traction, revenue, transactions, or client acquisition. And also I'm the producer and founder of What the Fintech. It's a channel of a short video about fintech initiative in Asia. So I try to do interview of a couple of entrepreneurs to share with us their vision, their mission, but also what they try to achieve with their companies and products.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, thank you for being on the show today. And so I really, first up, Medhy, you've really been a part of fintech in Hong Kong for quite a long time now. So over the last several years, what do you think have been some of the biggest changes? Would you categorize it as a technological change or more of a cultural change to accepting fintech?
There is a bit of both, I want to say. On the side of the technology, we have the regulators, HKMA, the Monetary Authority of Hong Kong, who push for a new area of smart banking. So what they did, they push all the banks and players in the fintech industry as well to enhance new technologies and enhance new products here. So we have the faster payment system. It's just an easy way to transfer money from two different users, citizens in Hong Kong, via a phone number or email address. So you register on your bank account or on your digital wallet that you have. You have access to that services that you can forward or transfer until 10,000 Hong Kong dollars. So it's maybe 1,500 euros on a daily basis to anyone you want. We have also the Open API. You are quite familiar with this in UK. So Hong Kong is following the steps here. And what we are doing is we are launching different phases. So we are under phase 2 right now, and the phase 3 is postponed due to the COVID situation. But I'm pretty sure we'll make progress on phase 3 and phase 4. We are rated to opening a bank account with a bank and also do the normal services, transaction services in the beginning with the API for banks. And one of the other things that we are hearing a lot here in Hong Kong is virtual banking. So the regulatory HKMA grant 8 licenses last year for new virtual banks. So basically it's a bank license, but those banks cannot have any retail or agency in Hong Kong physically. They can have headquarters, they can have operation services in Hong Kong, but they cannot have that retail shop that other banks have. So it's to force people to use their phone to do banking transaction. At this moment, only one is live, and several of them are on a pilot phase, and they will be launched in the coming weeks.
Yeah, is it Zhongang, the one that's gone live?
Yes.
Interesting.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, with the introduction of these virtual banks in Hong Kong, which has such a strong traditional banking infrastructure, what do you think that's going to do for the Hong Kong financial services infrastructure and ecosystem?
So it's really interesting because there is few things that we can see right now already on the market. So, for example, for onboarding, you have to go through KYC, know your customer process. Everything is normally super manual, but right now the government asks a few organizations to help to create a kind of digital framework for every bank. So it will be a third party named Cyberport. It's a kind of accelerator here in Hong Kong, working with the government, pushing for that initiative. So every bank will have a online and totally live solutions in the coming, I think, years. Solution to onboard every client. It's similar to what you have in the UK with Monzo, Revolut, and some banks do it already, like DBS. You take a selfie, you take a picture or video of your passport or Hong Kong ID, and you fill the different field required to your onboarding with the bank. So it's one of the things. The second thing will be API. So we push for more and more API connectivity between banks, other companies, and also different services, as well as the regulators, to have a connectivity and deliver the live services directly. So it's quite interesting. But on the virtual bank side, they are building at least the basic services of the bank first. So they have to have open account, transfer, deposit. The strategy right now is to acquire clients through some different offer of, really interesting rate deposit for a couple of months. But we haven't seen so much at the moment. We are still in May, but we are looking forward to see what they will propose in June and July.
Definitely. I mean, it's definitely got to change the way that you certainly now have to interact with your customers. So I guess you're really well positioned to kind of help take DBS further. Now there's this impetus of, I guess the best word to use is competition. But speaking of competition, Singapore and Hong Kong have always had this kind of like fintech, institutional bank dynamism that's really interesting. And obviously, coming from DBS, you have that very strong Singaporean roots. But over in Hong Kong, where do you think Hong Kong can push the fintech industry going forward? Just from within the city.
Yeah, sure. I just want to say that Hong Kong and Singapore are two totally different markets. I think mobile adoptions and application adoptions is really stronger in Singapore. If you go to Singapore and you take a taxi or you go to different shops, you can pay with cash, you can pay with credit card, but you can also pay with e-wallet. Every banks and Singtel have an e-wallet in Singapore, so you have an offer of 10 different e-wallets. In Hong Kong, it's quite different. People are still relying a lot on cash and the Octopus card. Octopus card is a card that we use for transportation, so the bus, the subway, but also to make some payments sometimes on some shops. But where Hong Kong is quite good as well is on AI and data. I think they have an influence from China compared to other countries in the world, where AI and data are super important. So as Hong Kong is the fifth fastest growing startup ecosystem in the world, and also the third center. Yes.
That's incredible.
And 12% of the startups in Hong Kong are fintech startups. So I think the figures about startups in Hong Kong is above 3,000. So we have like almost 15% of the startups here in fintech. And Hong Kong is really different as well, because we have also one of the, how can I say that? Fintech has raised more money than in Singapore. So I think in Hong Kong last year was around, almost 1 billion of USD, compared to Singapore where it was 400 millions of USD. So Hong Kong is still leading on that category there.
That's absolutely brilliant.
We also see a lot of change with the GBA, Hong Kong and Shenzhen on digital lending, InsurTech, so insurance products, and especially right now with the COVID situation where you still need to do business as usual, especially for banks and insurance. So there is a lot of involvement here and enhancement on the market. And the last one will be, I think, the regulation. But this is for every country, but we can see a kind of fast adoption from the regulators in Hong Kong and Singapore for the changes of the technology.
Incredible. And really, following on from that, you did mention obviously Hong Kong's relationship with mainland China. Can you give me a bit more insight between the connection between Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area. Is it really a symbiotic relationship? Obviously, Hong Kong has that institutionalized banking scene that we've already seen, but Shenzhen, for instance, and Guangzhou have maybe a significant amount of tech talent. We always hear about the Alibabas and the Taobaos being based there. What does that mean to really position Hong Kong going forward with fintech? How can it really use that to go forward and really become successful?
So I can give you a few figures. So the Greater Bay Area with Hong Kong, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Macau, and a couple of cities there, it's about 70 million of people right now. It's on the surface, it's like 3 times the size of San Francisco area.
Wow.
So
Okay.
it's quite huge. And in terms of GDP, it's the same than the Tokyo Bay Area or the New York metropolitan area as well. So
Right.
it's quite huge. So what they want to do here, in the Greater Bay Area, is to develop an international innovation and technology hub, definitely. So imagine you put New York City next to the Silicon Valley. That's what we want to do here with Hong Kong and Shenzhen, definitely.
Okay, wow.
They want to develop also the infrastructure and connectivity between the peoples and the different cities here. And they want to build a global, kind of modern industrial system, very competitive.
Yeah.
And they want to take forward the ecology conservation as well. So there is a couple of verticals that they want to develop. I think it cannot be built in one day, so it takes time year per year.
Sure.
So the connectivity are there. And Shenzhen is really a pool of talent for AI and data. There is a lot of developers there. Many companies has headquarters and office in Hong Kong, but also cross-border, so in Shenzhen or Guangzhou, to support their development and increase their technology capabilities and skills. So it's really interesting to see what is happening. It takes time, as I say. So sometimes we cannot be too much show to the people, or you cannot see the difference.
Yeah.
But internally, the companies are looking about it. Yeah.
Brilliant. And I'm going to put you on the spot slightly here. Over in the UK, for instance, everyone uses mainland China as an example of incredible innovation. Everyone wants to pretend they've heard about the next biggest application, be it obviously WeChat having C-Trip built into it, and being able to book your holidays or train tickets within WhatsApp is something that maybe in the UK and the US we would only dream about. But putting you slightly on the spot here, what do you think is really going to be the next biggest thing when it comes to fintechs, be it wealth management or pay tech, that you have in Hong Kong or mainland China that you think could be maybe exported to the rest of the world very soon?
Oh, this is a good question. So in mainland China, you have both B2B and B2C, and it's quite easy for the B2C to acquire a couple of million of users, I want to say. It's a bit, I try to vulgarize here, but in Hong Kong it's difficult because it's only 7 million people. So most of the fintech are really focusing on B2B or B2B2C. So where we see a strong impact of the fintech is more directly on the banking relationship, for example, how to collaborate with bank, insurance, or large corporate. What we see in Hong Kong as well, it's a QR code payment, or in China. So in China, I don't want to say cashless because it will be too strong, but in many restaurants you need to pay with your phone. So you can order directly through a QR code, your menu, your food, and also make the payment directly there. So this is quite interesting. I think adoption of e-wallet like Alipay in China or Hong Kong is quite interesting as well. And for the investment, I think Asia is quite good on robo-advisory too, especially in Southeast Asia, where we had a good adoption of robo-advisory. So how you can invest on the stock market. So I want to say that in Hong Kong and in Asia, people like to invest in the stock market. So they try to find a way to do it, especially right now with the COVID situation. So we have more and more solutions on the fund, and really easy to use to help you to buy some ETF basket of position, or also, as I mentioned before, stocks.
Yeah, I mean, wealth management is categorized, I'd say, by still being very analog, still being very people driven. And I guess Corona and this pandemic has really forced the robo-advisory side of things to finally kick in to its fullest extent. That should be very exciting. Now, speaking about the future and all these exciting technologies, can you tell me a bit more about your role at DBS and the Startup Exchange? What does your role bring to the bank, and what are you seeing in fintech in Hong Kong?
So what I do is I'm definitely the face of DBS to speak about the innovation and startups. With the team, we try to be really close to the ecosystem here and give back to the community. So we have a focus to work with startups in Hong Kong, but also in Asia, to find a suitable solution for the businesses, but also to co-create a new product. So it can be how to make a payment through Facebook Messenger, how to help the people to have access to the right services directly over the phone on the banking application, and also how to predict through the data that we have what will be the next investment of the clients, on what will be the next need of the clients, and we can serve him better, even if it's a consumer, individual, or corporate. So my job is to oversee those companies and new technology, propose it to DBS different services, and help on the digital transformation to make the bank almost invisible through the new technologies. So we don't have to be always here, but we have to at least be able to help on the transaction, be able to help on the money collections, be able to help the customers to achieve their banking needs with the different industries in Hong Kong. So last year we have done 18 proof of concept. A couple went to live solutions.
Nice.
So we did the implementation, mostly related to AI features or machine learning solutions. That's what we are doing here. But we also try to create, different fruitful events where we can bring different companies to pitch in front of the bankers. Last time we did an AI pitch night, and we had 5 companies who came. 4 of them signed in the following weeks proof of concept project with us, so it was quite interesting. Participate on the different big events like Rise in Hong Kong, but also the Fintech Week where I met you last year. And also try to see how we can bring our banking experience to the next level. So I spoke about digital onboarding. We were the first bank to do end-to-end onboarding on your phone in less than 10 minutes with only one app and live. So you had already, when you finish the onboarding process, you had your bank account open with us, and you can enjoy the different services that we have, but also help you to have access to a digital credit card on your phone in less than 5 minutes in a shop. If you see an advertising, you can subscribe. You just reply to a few questions, and you have access to the credit card on your phone. So it's already here, and you can make the payment directly on the contactless bond or contactless hardware that you have on the shop.
Excellent. So you really do go through that entire value chain from the beginning of sourcing these fintechs to making sure that they get implemented. I mean, what would you say to the fintechs in Hong Kong, that when they come to you or you go to them, what is it that when you see them that is the number one outlier, the number one key to success for a fintech in Hong Kong?
Do the reply to a problem statement. Do the reply to a problem from the industry, because some of the companies, I think, they have a weak proposition because they don't really take care of the problem. Sometimes they come with a solution that don't reply to all the criteria of the problem. It can reply to divide the problem by 3, and maybe it can reply to A and 2, but not the 3 main pillars of that solution. We really try to focus on the value proposition. So we don't care about the technology, if it's a blockchain, API, or machine learning. What we try to do is to see if the technology is suitable for the bank, if the integration is easy, and if we can make it possible in a fast way. So what is really important for us is to do quick wins. So first, to see the feasibility of the project and the feasibility of the result. Can we see, after a proof of concept, some metrics that can show the difference between what we have currently as a process and what we can expect to have in the end with a new process.
You spoke earlier about how fintech and the tech side of Hong Kong is really successful when it comes to AI and machine learning. This is actually a very difficult question, and I am putting you on the spot for a second time. But looking to the future, where is fintech going in Hong Kong? Where do you predict its real strengths to be a part, using that technology when it comes to AI? And do you think we're going to start seeing more fintech banks, more virtual banks, really being part of an ecosystem in Hong Kong?
Yeah, I think ecosystem is definitely the biggest thing that everyone wants to focus on. How to integrate different services and have different actors on your, on your universe, on your ecosystem, and work with them seamless. This is really important. So that's why I mentioned invisible banking before. How we can help to do transaction, collection of money, payment, transfer, remittances, all those things differently and seamless for everyone's on corporate side and also individual. But I think nothing is more exciting than AI development, especially here. We can see in both the banking industry, but also the fintech industry, many challenges, but they are quite exciting. So some of the challenges is how we can integrate AI into the business. It's quite easy to speak about AI and imagine many things, but when you want to integrate it, it's totally different. How you can structure the data, how you can streamline the data and make it, easy to understand for the systems, but also the people to analyze this, and how you can create maybe predictive analytics there as well. The complexity is the technology is changing every time, so we still need to understand the technology and it don't become a black box. But beyond looking for new technology, I think we must keep in mind the benefit of solving a problem. That's what I said just before for the startups. But this is the most important thing. It's really crucial because there is many existing solutions on the market, as I mentioned, blockchain, AI, machine learning, RPA, and all the buzzwords that you can find. But how you can solve that critical solutions as problem statement with the solutions. And for larger organization, I think we need to focus also on the lack of standardization of the data and risk management. It's really important for the bank and the ecosystem, and that's why we have regulators to structure all the big companies, but also support the change of the technology or other field industries in the big cities like Hong Kong MA, but you have also regulators for electricity, you have regulators for the water, for the food supply, so we cannot avoid this. So I think it's really, really important to really focus on this.
Wow, absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for your insight, Medhy. It's been so interesting because as I mentioned, a lot of the times you hear the Greater Bay Area and what's coming out of Hong Kong and China is leagues ahead. It's so exciting to be able to actually hear someone who's been such a core part of that for the last couple of years. So to our viewers, thank you very much for watching. Make sure to catch Medhy's show, What the Fintech, and also catch our interview that took place earlier last year when I visited Hong Kong for the Hong Kong Fintech Week. But thank you very much for watching, and catch the rest of the series at www.fintechfinance. See ya.